All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Alchemy Podcast. Actually really looking forward to today's conversation. I'm here with Caleb. Welcome, man.
Thanks for having me.
So this was really impromptu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were literally DMing on Instagram. We haven't caught up in 2 years.
Yeah.
And so last time I saw you, you were working with Sunbright.
Uh-huh.
We were in Orlando, Florida. I'm really good friends with Miguel.
Yeah.
And Miguel brought me in to do like a leadership retreat for you guys. You spent 3 days doing breath work and mindset training and the whole thing.
Yep.
Literally haven't talked to you really since then. And then just last week you slid into the DMs and you're like, bro, I learned so much from you all these years ago. My life's totally changed. And rather than like chatting on there, I'm like, hey, let's just get you on the pod. I have no idea. Maybe you're about to say your training ruined my life. I have no clue. But catch me up, man. Like, where were you? Like, where were you in that phase of in your life when we did that training 2 years ago? Just getting into solar versus where you are now, and what's been the big shifts, bro?
I was exactly where I was supposed to be at that moment of my life. That that period of time that we had spent separated away, because obviously, and I'm not sure if I'm spoiling anything. Obviously, you make everybody turn their phones in, so it's a complete disconnect. And at that point, I would have been just turning 20.
Yeah.
So it was 19, just turning 20. I'm 22 now. And I had been in sales. I had done 2 door-to-door summers prior to that. And then
doing solar?
No, I did Dish Network, which funny enough for everybody like understands the videos. When I first started, those are all old videos that I was just scrolling through and I was like, oh, this is hilarious. Like, let's just start posting them.
Yeah.
And then like it just popped off. And then second summer I did pest control up in New Jersey. And then I just noticed, I was like, okay, well, I guess solar's the next step up. Obviously, like the higher commission checks, the bigger deals. And I had stepped into it with Sunbright. Miguel's a great dude. I haven't talked to him in forever, but I'm sure at some point it'll be another impromptu thing.
Yeah.
And I remember we had like all hit certain accolades to get invited to that trip. And I was very, very closed-minded. Funny enough, I think I showed up high. Like, I think at that point, I think like the drive over, because we drove 2.5 hours or so from Orlando. And like, I had a big like prior background of drug use. And at that point, all like I thought about was like money, sales, growth, like everything that when you're 19, 20, you think that that's all that like the industry has to offer.
Right.
So I was like, okay, guys, I know like we're going to talk to this sweet dude who sold thousands of accounts for Vivint. And he's apparently going to teach me how to make a bunch of money. Sick. So
little did you know.
Yeah. Little did I know for sure. So then we show up, we start getting involved within the process. Obviously, I can't spoil all the beans in here. You got to go through the experience to know what's going on. But we go through the day-by-day experience, and it completely changed like my mindset shift from like everything transactional towards like everything transformational, where it was like everything that I'm going to do is going to be based off of an energy transfer here. And the more pathways of energy I can give means the more pathways of energy I can receive to be able to create this abundance in a very smooth manner instead of that forceful sales manner. So,
yeah, one thing that happens a lot in sales, and I was a victim to it too, is like when I first got started, it was all about like, how do I convince this customer into the deal? How do I like push and force my way into, and you just burn out really, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I love that, what you said about making it, changing the energy behind it all. And so, let me ask you this. When you were first going through the experience, right? And I mean, we can share all the details possible. Was there something specific where like the light bulb went on where you're like, man, I'm like out of alignment in my life. I need to make some changes. Was there something specific that kind of stood out to you? And if so, because obviously you're doing really, really well in solar now. And I kind of checked on your Instagram now. And it seems like it's kind of like you've really embodied the solar experience. What were some of those specific shifts you felt? Post Alchemy event?
So funny enough, just so we know, like at this current point, I do run like a virtual online sales team. Yeah. So I'm out of the solar industry now. But the main light bulb switch off was the very beginning when you do your presentation on all the different planets and helping us understand that our problems aren't as big as we think our problems are. That was the first one. And then the second one that I've started to see like months on, and this actually triggered me to want to reach out to you was the quote that you had made, that leaders' whole job is believing in others more than they believe in themselves. Because I initially had somebody like 9 months believe in me when I had like absolutely nothing to my name. Like I had gotten, like I had tried to start this solar company with somebody else. I was in debt 40 grand and I was like, oh, holy crap, I'm back at my parents' house. And I had somebody believe in me. And then a lot of the quotes that you gave started trickling down. Then the next quote like came trickling down of like the greatest superpower anybody has is the ability to change themselves. Then after that, we started getting into the idea of the intuitive thoughts versus the invasive thoughts. Yeah. So I was able to maneuver my pathway better.
Yeah, I would love to chat about that more and share that. I've never shared that on a podcast before, but intuitive thoughts versus invasive thoughts. Let's talk about that, because a lot of people deal with invasive thoughts. And what's an invasive thought? An invasive thought is going to be that voice in your head that's like going to demand like a reaction, urgency, fear-based, what's going to happen, danger, like I need to change industry, I need to change area, I need to change company, I need to change my pitch, like everyone's out to get me. Like you're going to have these invasive thoughts all the time. And a lot of times we can't differentiate between an invasive thought and intuitive thought, where an intuitive thought is kind of there to guide you and help you and support you. It's very loving and supportive. And a lot of times I see a lot of reps that I work with one-on-one, we get like completely demoralized and overwhelmed by our invasive thoughts, right? Because the voice inside our head is always chattering. It's always going. It's never stopping. And a lot of times our invasive thoughts are going to encourage us to be a lesser version of ourselves, right? And it seems like you're able to kind of make that step, right? So tell us more about that. You know, you talked about that was kind of a big key takeaway for you. Where in your life did you see some changes with that? Was there a moment where you're like, oh, this is an invasive thought and I don't need to listen to it, right? Talk to us about kind of that awareness around the relationship with invasive thoughts versus intuitive thoughts.
Yeah, I had that whole structure of thinking came from the quote that you had put down. Like I've read through the Black Alchemy book you give me many a time. Like if I've structured trainings off of anything for everybody, I've just looked through that because I understand like the application of these small things is going to drastically change everything, because I did it. And it was the idea like you're upset because life isn't unfolding how you expected it to. And it doesn't mean that it's not going how it should be going, but you just don't think so. So you're in that misalignment. So then I would find myself in these periods of misalignment. And the biggest thing on the T chart, and I still remember it to this day, was one is obviously loud, very demanding, requires a response. The other one is very quiet, guiding, and is peaceful.
Yeah.
So like I would start to face these problems instead of calling people or getting into meetings, be like, hey, let's sit down and solve this. I just close my door and I would just sit with it for a second. I'd be like, okay. And I would be able to actually like maneuver my emotions and my mindset on these situations. And even when I made the wrong decision, I was flowing into it and it wasn't as scary as everybody made it out to be.
Yeah. The problem we face in life is never the problem, right? It's always our relationship to it. And when we face, you know, kind of these difficult things, whether it's in business, and I know obviously you've been on like a career trajectory change, you know, it's our relationship to it, and do our thoughts in our head, right? They're actually the thing that causes suffering. One of my favorite quotes is from Michael Singer in his new book, Living Untethered. He says, the moment in front of you is not bothering you. You are bothering yourself about the moment in front of you. And so a lot of us deal with these invasive thoughts. And what we do is we actually let them take charge of our life, right? We have these thoughts of like, oh my gosh, my girl's going to leave me, or this, you know, right now, and you're not in store anymore, but like right now there was the changes with like them pulling back some of the tax credits, and everyone in Seoul is freaking out right now. Right. And so that's the suffering is actually our relationship to our thoughts. And so let me ask you this, how did embracing these concepts and these ideas kind of lead you to where you are now today in your career?
I realized that like the feeling of success that I wanted when I was so young was rooted to like a feeling of not being enough. And when I started to like even touch a minor amount of the money that like I never thought I would receive, I was like, this is not what I had asked for at all. Like, this is not getting me to like the emotional spot that I want to be. And like another thing that you had shared with us is success is an internal experience. And I like say this at least once a week. I'm like, dude, if you found somebody that had $1 billion, or if you found somebody that was completely like homeless, poor, had overwhelming anxiety, overwhelming depression, you gave them $1 billion, but the two things with their mental didn't go away, they'd still be miserable. And that was another light bulb thing that clicked. It was like, okay, so maybe obviously I desire to have money because I desire to have freedom. But maybe what I'm like chasing is going to be emotional safety, mental clarity, and then an ability to be able to give to other people. And going through the invasive versus intrusive thoughts, it really taught me about what I was currently doing now. Like sales was just a job. And I've learned to now understand that it's like my life is more important than my job 100%. Like this is just the way that I make money. And you were the first person I'd ever listened to. I was like, hey, before we talk about like any technical training, and to be fair, and no offense to any sales trainers out there, it's all about the same. You get a lot of different perspectives on a lot of the same objections and problems. But what's going to actually be the moneymaker is fixing the individual that's saying the phrases and the sentences, which goes back to your big old idea. People don't have a sales problem. They've got a personal problem affecting their sales life. And the moment I dealt with the personal problems, my sales life flowed effortlessly.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's dive in deep, because that is a quote of mine that seems to go viral a lot, right? Is you don't have a sales problem, you have a personal problem blocking your sales. So let's tap into, 19, 20-year-old Caleb. What were some of his personal problems that were blocking his sales success?
Well, funny enough, a lot of people don't know this. I grew up and I was homeschooled till 8th grade. So I definitely don't think that I developed like the certain stigmas that are passed around when like discussing homeschool communities and groups. I think I developed fine social skills, and friend making skills. We had a really great group, but I had a really big transition from 8th grade, which is when I started my first year of school, and 11th grade, which was my last year of high school before I started dual enrollment.
Yeah, I'm going to slow you down there because I'm actually really curious on this. Like, so what is that transition like from going from homeschooled and then transitioning out?
So my parents are pure quality. Like I come from an extremely good household. My dad, he's my life coach. He's done phenomenal in his life as well. My mom is awesome. So I went from like a very nurturing and loving circle that I didn't know I was taking advantage of at that point to getting thrown out into the real world. And at that point, my parents knew I was ready for that and I was going to figure it out, but I didn't. So
that was really jarring.
There was a lot of desire. I had a lot of hunger. A lot of other people would be like, hey, like I would come home and I was like upset because I wasn't fitting in or whatnot. For some reason, I had so much like hunger to figure out what was going on. I was like, well, all these people are already friends. What were they doing like 5 years ago to now they have these stories of like everything that's going on? Why do some people go sit on this side of the lunch table and other people sit here? Why do some people get to miss their homework and other people don't? And like I started to be able to analyze like the way the world worked, not in a positive outlook, but like in a curious one, because I had already been nurtured so heavy growing up. But when I started to get involved into bringing that nurturing to the tables to others, I was instantly shot down. And then I started to get really cold. So I started to get like more emotionally and mentally cold, probably after my first 6 months in middle school, going into high school.
Yeah, what was that like? I mean, because it sounds like you came from like a really safe, loving household where like everything was good. Mm-hmm. And you like have like this, these rose-colored glasses on of like what the world's like. It's safe, it's amazing, it's love, right? And then it feels like you kind of get thrown into the wilderness. Do you remember the first time like trying to reach out, make friends, and kind of get accepted and then getting rejected? Do you have like a specific memory that comes to mind? And if so, what was that like?
I don't remember having anything extremely specific. It was always just feeling like one-off situations where it's like I thought I would receive the invite to do this.
Sure.
And it was like maybe not there because we lived in a good school community. So it's like we weren't dealing with too much crazy stuff. Obviously, the school I went with was Westwood Middle School and they called it Weedwood. Yeah. So it's like, obviously that explains itself. But it was always just like one-off situations where I thought like I had like earned my place to be there. And it just never fell through. So it was always a lot of self-reflection. It was never like aggressive, not aggressive elimination, but like, hey, you can't come join us.
Sure. It's more like passive. Yeah. It seems like you're kind of just seeking a sense of belonging and not quite getting it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Like I always remember too, because we definitely didn't grow up like with a lot of wealth. Funny enough, my families are in-state missionaries. So like we were raised off of donors and obviously fundraising and whatnot.
Right.
And then my dad obviously did a lot of personal training, and all of that. So, I mean, his story is like he raised all 7 of us off of like $40,000.
Wow.
So it's like we were always very like calculated and careful with everything we did because our lives literally counted on it. So when I would see like different people's parents doing different things or giving certain things, I started to build a lot of bitterness.
So you're saying like you'd see other kids in your grade, whatever, kind of get, something cool, like what is it, like clothes, cars, money, finances, and it seems like it created some resentment for you.
Yeah, it did. It all goes down to it created a lot of hunger. And I think that's because my dad did a really proper job. Is I don't ever remember having a much of a spirit of like, why isn't this me? I was just like, oh, I want it. I was like, I want it bad, and I'm going to do whatever like it takes to get there. But looking back, I now have the understanding to know like everything that I thought was cut out then isn't what it cut out to be now, because I have access to these things. I'm actively not choosing them.
Yeah. Was there a moment of like, oh shit, what have I done? Where it's like, 'cause I resonate with that. In my early 20s, I was like, I'm going to go be the top rep. I'm going to be number one. I went and sold thousands of Vivint accounts and bought Porsches and trips to the Super Bowl. And I remember having this moment of like feeling scared where it's like, oh, I went and got the things that I thought that I wanted, and I still feel empty inside. There's like this moment of like rubber hits the road. And I remember going to my leaders at the time and I'm saying, hey, I'm still, I was kind of coming off the summer where I was the top rep in the region. And I'm like, hey, what should be the goal? Because I'm feeling unfulfilled. And their advice to me was like, go make more money. And I remember walking out of those conversations thinking like, I don't know if more money's the thing. I don't think, an extra 100, 200 grand is going to make a difference. And I remember feeling kind of lost. And so what was that transition like for you? Because it sounds like, hey, there was this really strong hunger for you to like go perform, go get the things that your friends were having, right? To go desire it. It seems like you got some of it, right? And then, sounds like you have this awareness that the things that you thought you wanted weren't going to provide the fulfillment you were seeking.
Well, just to be completely transparent, every summer, like I'd never hit my goal.
Yeah.
Like there was always something mental or emotional that happened where I was still broke. There was always some form of action missing where I was still broke. There was something that I was doing, whether it was inconsistency or lack of mental effort with like focus.
Yeah, break it down by the summers. Like what were some of those lessons? Because obviously what those are lessons learned, right? What were, as you faced through your summer, like what were the main lessons you learned through each summer?
So summer one, going to sell dish was probably like the very best thing for me. I remember I was just like scrolling around on Snapchat. I was with at this time this girl that I kind of liked, but I was like, dude, if I can get like a way out of this, like totally sick. And I got a call from like a typical recruiter, like, hey, you sound like an absolute stud.
So you got recruited over a phone call.
Yeah.
How did they get your number?
One of my friends actually was doing it, and he had like a postcard that said he had made 22 grand the year before, and this is back in 2021, I think.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, just like hop on the phone with him. And I did it. So I hopped on the phone with him. That night, he came over. We smoked a blunt in a shed, and he said, I'm going to leave for Missouri tomorrow. I said, okay, I'm packing all my stuff and I'm coming with you. So I told my parents, I told my girlfriend at that point, I was like, I'm leaving.
What was their response? Like, you're leaving the next day.
My ex-girlfriend was super torqued, and she stuck with me actually throughout the whole process. So shout out to her.
Yeah, loyal.
Yeah, so she definitely was down to see it through. Obviously, I'm not with her anymore, but no big deal. The parents, my dad was all for it.
It seems like your dad's the type of guy who was all about this kind of concept.
So I was young. I was the youngest of 5. 2 boys, 2 girls. Obviously, I'm the third. My Matthew, he stays here in Austin. Daniel's out in Fort Lauderdale. And then one of my sisters, Mallory's in Baltimore, and then Christine's in St. Pete. But I was the third boy. I was the youngest of the caboose. And I think my dad just at that point had enough understanding, like, hey, he's going to refuse to follow rules. He's not going to get into a bunch of trouble, because I never had gotten into any trouble with like school or cops or anything. I was always just like I wanted to, but I just never seemed a way to get caught. And I told him, I was like, I'm leaving and I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go knock doors.
Yeah.
He's like, all right.
All for it.
Yeah. He's like, all right, sounds good. Don't die. And my brother, he's been in sales for 8 years. And like a lot of because we were raised so well, there was a lot of like desire to rebel. So my parents are like expert problem solvers because you've got like a bunch of monkey-minded teenagers and like a lot of wisdom filled, like obviously like older people, telling, like knowing what's going on, and they let it happen. And then that first summer, it was like, I don't know, maybe 12 dudes staying in like a 3-bedroom house, just the typical.
And you're out of Missouri, just like
Joplin, Missouri, middle of nowhere.
Yeah, just bumming it.
Yeah, it was
best
great.
Summers, right?
Yeah, I look back now, that was awesome. And this was my turning point in the summer because I was good at selling. I enjoyed the process. Obviously, I made it really fun. I always had a really good relationship with myself whenever I was by myself. And I didn't like have anything to prove to anybody.
Yeah.
Which is why I had all those videos. And I saw those, I was like, oh, this is hilarious. Like, dude, younger Caleb, you really rock. Like, let's throw it out there and see what happens.
Yeah.
And the turning point was because I didn't really like get a huge enjoyment out of selling a lot of accounts. I remember there was like a rookie competition, and you just know how door to door, like shit talking is. I played soccer for 16 years. I finished playing at like a really high level. I made like the all SEC team, for obviously SEC, Southeastern.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to, 2021 was, like the end of high school.
Okay.
It'd be 2022. 2021 was when COVID started, was my junior year when ID camps were, basically for recruitment, the whole nine.
Yeah.
And so that's when everything fell apart. So I never ended up going.
Sure, yeah.
But the year before that, we did all of our trials and whatnot.
Cool.
And it was
cool. So you got like this competitive drive. You're out of Missouri, first summer, like, right, bombing it with your friends.
I was like, I miss my girlfriend. This place sucks. There's a bunch of people living here. I deserve all this. And the cracking point was like this kid, and I'm still friends with this dude now. He's a great guy. Like he was just like, dude, there's no way you can beat me. So what me, and the person that recruited us did is we stayed at a like Motel 8 in the middle of nowhere. And we literally worked from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for like the 7 days straight. We disappeared. Nobody knew where we were. Cause he had to face the top person in his bracket. And I had kind of beat everybody up to the point and I had to face this guy. And I think within that week, I did like 26 accounts or whatnot, and I ended up beating him. And I didn't like talk any shit back.
Yeah.
Like I remember at that
point.
It's
a quiet confidence.
Oh,
just a mic drop.
Once I closed the door, I was just like doing backflips and like punching myself in my chest. Yeah. But I remember that being a turning point that I still look back on now. And like one phrase resonates heavily with me. It's like worthy to be relied on. And I had to just like earn that worth over like this whole period now to where it's like, dude, you can rely on me. Like if you tell me to do something, like I've got your back. And that summer like established a whole lot of grit, and it established the idea. It's like, hey, when I'm called on, like I'll perform.
Hey, one thing that I think is really important, especially for someone's first summer, I think the goal of someone doing their first summer ever, whether it's dish or pest or solar or alarms, whatever it is, it's not to go make money. It's to learn how to work, right? That the habits that you embrace your rookie year are going to be the habits that go with you for your whole career and how many years you do it. And I look back at my career, and one thing I'm incredibly grateful for, my first summer I was knocking was the summer my dad was sick with colon cancer. He ended up passing away that summer. I ended up going home early, but the weeks that I was out there, I knew the stakes were really high. Like, hey, if I'm going to be out here working, I'm saying no to spending time with my dad. So I'm not going to waste a single second of it.
Yeah.
Right. The stakes are high. So I went out and I was working and I was grinding and I put in all the work and all the hours. And that really built the foundation of my sales career. And I look at a lot of reps now who are out, they're all excited it's their first year rep, and they fall into these really bad habits of getting off the doors early, not working all the hours, they're not studying, they're not training. And then just slowly over time, the wheels start to come off, and those habits are really hard to break. And so it sounds like, this competition was such a gift for you because, someone's like telling you, hey, I'm going to beat you. And you got this desire, and then you went and worked 8 to 8.
Yeah.
Right. And so really, you built this foundation of like undeniable work ethic.
It was probably a little bit later now that I look back. But I didn't earn that opportunity at all. Like door-to-door sales, still to this point is everything. Like if you're lost, just like go do it. Cause forget about like the constant rejection, everything. You're spending 8 hours by yourself every day.
Yeah.
If there's things that you've maybe processed internally the wrong way, it's going to come out. If there's stuff that you didn't know you had sitting in your stomach, it's going to come out.
It'll expose you.
It's awesome. I didn't earn it, and I didn't know it was what I needed. And the craziest point is I would have never thought like 4-ish years later that I'd be sitting here talking about this, because back then, like, my legs were getting chafed. I was getting bit by dogs. I was pissed off. Obviously, the area we were at definitely was super, like, nuts. And I just was always remembering, like, why am I doing this? Like, what is the point of this? And I ended up making like 14 grand. So I was totally stoked.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy how much, that first summer you make money, you think it's life changing. You look back at it, you're like, wow.
Yeah. It's now that I really think about it, that's nuts. But fast forwarding to after that, when I got back, did a whole lot of nothing, told my parents I was going to stay in community college, didn't just buzzed off and did whatever came to mind. Spent time with my girlfriend or whatever. I think that ended up like being like 4 or 5 months after that summer or whatnot. And I was like, hey, I'm literally going to go get rich. I'm actively trying to make $1 million here. Can you relax? It's like, in all honesty, I was sitting on my couch smoking weed, like trying to figure out what I was going to do with myself.
So how did you transition into pest?
The guy who I beat in the competition was like, I'm going to go do pest. Here's all the reasons why. And I had already been sitting on my butt doing nothing. I was like, all right, cool. We'll go sell pest. And I remember my reason behind that was I was like, I want to actually sell something. I don't just want to do switch over accounts with warm leads. I'm going to go up to northern New Jersey and talk to a bunch of a-holes and like really like test my skills here. Like, let's like see what I can go do. I remember because I had kind of like a girlfriend that lived in the Hamptons up in New York. And she had flown down to Gainesville to kind of like see where I was from or whatnot. She didn't like ever meet my parents or anything. Like, this was not very serious at all. And then I ended up flying back with her to the Hamptons, super wealthy family, whatnot, really like sick situation. And I just like remembering them. I was like, dude, I'm the man. Like, dude, like I've reached the next milestone. That was really fun. Went back to New Jersey. It was only like I don't know. I can't even remember, maybe a 45-minute bus ride or whatnot. I would leave the Philly train station or the Philly bus stop to get to the train station, ride the train from New Jersey to New York. And I have like videos of it being like 4:50 in the morning. I was just always wild. I just wanted to see what was out there. Did pest control for a month and a half. Funny enough, went to New York, had a childhood friend of mine whose older brother lived in New York. We went out a night after the Yankees played the Red Sox, and I initially got into a fight and knocked this kid out, but I broke my hand on his jaw, and we didn't have like full country insurance or whatever it's called for health. So I had to leave this summer because I got into a fight with this kid and go back to Florida. And this is where all the mental stuff started happening. This is where it all was going down. And obviously everybody's going to want to know basically what happened is we're sitting out at this bar. These people think that we're somebody else. This is like a group of like 8 guys. And they're like pushing up on my friend or whatnot. And I was like, dude, I'm not having it. So it's just like, I just start brawling, and I'm wearing like a relatively like large shirt. Like, looking back, I should just be like, hey dude, like you guys are all good. Cause like I shouldn't have done this at all. But like they just ran up. So I just clocked this kid in his jaw, and I had to run cause they were about to jump me. But then I woke up and my hand was destroyed. But fast forwarding, get the phone call, start making phone calls to the company. Everybody's super sad because pest control was really, really fun. Yeah. Looking back, if you can find a good market in pest, I think it's phenomenal. It's a great sale. Like, if you're really just relaxed in the pocket, willing to make plays, you can make door-to-door extremely fun. And like, I've got a little bit of experience because I had a great time doing it. Yeah. So talk to us what happened when you went home. It sounds like you went through kind of a mental break. Yeah, that it cracked me big time. It was the next step of, I think, the like emotional onion, like pulling it back. Cause at that point my hand was so messed up, I couldn't lift. And I've been lifting now for 5-6 ish years. So like, that's always been the cornerstone. It's like, work out, take care of your body, go make money. So I couldn't work out anymore. And I couldn't sell anymore because I didn't know about virtual back in 2022/2023. Yeah. Like, I didn't know about any of that. I don't even think we were doing that yet. So the only thing I could sit there and do was either be with my thoughts or go drink. So growing up in a college town, Gainesville, University of Florida, I just like slowly started wasting my life away. And I was like, okay, well, this is, I can't remember any of it. I don't know what I was doing. Like I can't tell you what was going on. I just knew I had a cast on. I couldn't do anything productive.
Yeah. So you started drinking.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. So when I like to talk about substances too, and I'm in no way a professional or a doctor, but substances, especially drinking, is it's a suppressant, so it pushes down. So I'm always curious, when someone is drinking a lot, in your situation, drinking a lot, which emotion or emotions were you least wanting to feel and get away from?
Like vision, I believe, and I know vision is not emotion, but yeah, lack of vision.
Yeah.
All this stuff is happening, like just victim mindset. I would say lack of vision, and then hope. I've done some pretty in-depth training with Jeffrey Combs, and he talks all about like letting go. And instead of like white knuckling bad habits to get rid of them, just like breathing, releasing, letting go of what's stopping you, and accepting your future and your success. And I didn't want to like see the hope. I was addicted to the like emotions I felt of being not being drunk, but being unfulfilled. Because it gave me a circle to be able to blame other people for things instead of taking accountability.
Yeah, it outsources responsibility onto something else other than yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you take responsibility for yourself, you take 100% ownership for my situation, if it's really, really shitty, then you're proving to yourself that you're a failure. I'm not good enough, I'm a failure. But as long as it's something outside of myself, then you can avoid that deep pain of feeling like you're not good enough.
That, and I always remembered a big thing was just like middle school or high school where I didn't feel like I belonged. College was the same thing because I went to community college. And then I also wanted to go do door-to-door sales. So I was like, dude, I'm trying to get out of college as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And I had that moment like right there to just go to the bars and like just go to the clubs and just go do whatever I wanted to do. Because I had my own crib at that point in Gainesville. And I took advantage of it for sure. And obviously it ended up how it ended up. I hated it.
Yeah.
Like I so deeply did desire to want to lift, to want to obviously read like the books that I knew I should be reading, like work on my relationship with my parents as well as with God. I was just like, dude, I just broke up with my girlfriend. Like, I feel like everybody's always giving me all this structure and like these timelines and things to do. I don't have anything to do. What am I going to do? So obviously I went down that road, and thankfully nothing really terrible happened to me. Just like a lot of just added up time and time and time and time of feeling like, oh, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
That's what it all came down to.
Yeah. So what was, how did you combat that? How did you overcome those feelings?
I would say it would be doing everything that obviously works, taking care of your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual self. But at that point, I didn't have that option. So it was just taking a risk, like going to Orlando when I'd started and my hand had just healed. I went on these 2-week blitzes out in the middle of nowhere in Port St. Lucie. And I'd spend 2 weeks out there away from everything and come back. And that just made the drinking worse because I would come back and I would drink way more.
Yeah.
And up to that point, it wasn't like an everyday thing. It was whenever I feel good, like I'm going to go drink.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I feel crappy. I'm never going to do this again. Obviously the cycle. But it was taking that risk and then seeing small payoffs in that risk remind me that there's a reward for hard, consistent work. So I was like, okay, well, maybe when I'm not like getting into fights, not following schedule, not doing things that are actively harming myself, maybe I'm not so bad after all. So I started to do pretty good, set some like really small records with the company. And
yeah, like, so let me ask you this. Let's break this down. So I know there's probably a lot of people listening to this who are like feeling they're in a rut, feeling like they're hopeless, they're not going to hit their goals, they're behind. They might be in bad habits of gambling or drinking or porn or Zen or and they're kind of wanting to break these habits. And it sounds like you kind of chipped away at this and started implementing some really kind of simple habits and then started to create a lot of momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So for someone who's kind of stuck, what advice do you have them? What are some basic things someone can do to start to get out of the rut and start to build that momentum to raise their self-confidence?
That's a great question. It'll all come down to the one understanding. Until the pain of the addiction overcomes the pain of, I believe it's success. Oh, when the pain of the addiction is more than the pain of success, that's when you'll be able to release. And like, that's what I found. I think I'm saying that wrong, but my brain understands it. I'm not sure if I'm speaking out correctly. Basically you'll get to a point where you'll hit rock bottom, where it like won't be worth it anymore. And like, I hit the portion of it being like, this is not worth it anymore.
Yeah. The pain of staying the same will be more painful than the pain of change.
That's the commonality. And very small, consistent things to do would be able to accept hope, be able to accept vision, and be able to accept your success, and just be like, what if? Like, I know I'm in this portion right now. What would it look like if I wasn't addicted to drinking? How I firmly believe in dreaming. Like, I'm a big dreamer. I'm a big creative.
Yeah.
It's like, what would it look like if I strictly applied myself to having vision and just seeing what if? Because you're not going to give up substances that increase your dopamine at a high level very, very quickly for nothing. There's going to be a payoff. We're all addicted to something. Now, what I'm addicted to now is different than what I was addicted to in the past, but it's a different form of addiction. Like, now I'm addicted to obviously waking up early and like doing what I want to do within like my business and feeling good, the things that actually we're supposed to enjoy. But it would be to be a creative and to be a visionary.
Yeah.
Like, just what if? I think people so many times, their goal is to like get rid of the habits and get rid of the different things that they're doing that are negatively affecting them, when they don't realize that those small things that they're doing are filling like a hole they're missing. So maybe instead of trying to get rid of something, spend more time identifying the hole and fix that first. And then maybe the other thing will kind of pass on.
Get a natural fall away. Yeah.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you made some serious growth. And I mean, let me ask this, what credit do you give door to door to where you are in your business today?
Just get it done. That's all I ever remember from door to door. I don't know what's going on, but just get it done. So it's like, oh, cool. Like, your business is falling apart. You don't know what you're doing. Everybody's talking crap behind your back. They say that you're unqualified. You might be unqualified. Just get it done.
Yeah. It's like that concept, like you'll either find an excuse or you'll find a way. And the thing with door to door, especially in the sales or in sales in general, is that you're going to have a million excuses of why you can't get it done. And they're going to be valid. They're going to be valid excuses so that like the average person's going to be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense why you're behind on your numbers. That makes a lot of sense why you're sleeping in. It makes a lot of sense why you're not financially, like, yeah, I actually understand that and it's valid. But the true successful people in this job will always find a way, regardless of what excuses are present, because there's always going to be an excuse present and it's going to make sense and it's going to be valid. And you can buy into that, or you can buy into this mindset that you're showing of like, I'm going to get it done regardless.
Or just get it done. I loved it. You were on time for the meetings.
Yeah.
You were on time getting onto the doors, and you were on time getting off the doors. The structure of door to door, it's very easy to succeed, which is going to be something that everybody's like, dude, door to door is super hard. Like, I get it, but everything you do,
so simple. The process, the blueprint's very simple, right? While you lay out that blueprint, in between, your emotions are going to go all over the place. You're going to freak out. You're going to panic and have low self-esteem. You're going to have a million excuses, right? You're going to also have days where you feel like you're the man, you're the best rep ever, you're going to make $1 million. And then the next day you're going to think about like, oh, maybe I should go get a job at Arctic Circle. I don't know. Like, and so maintaining that system is what really is really going to dictate the difference. So talk to me about your transition out of door to door. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so I had moved out here to Texas about a year ago, and this is when I met my wonderful girlfriend I'm with now. And I had brought over, this is like after I had started to kind of blow up on social media a minor amount. So like I started getting these unqualified job positions where it's like, dude, just come over here. We're going to like utilize everything. You're going to build, like grow a business. And I took one of those positions, and like I was an executive of a solar company out here with like a really large salary and like a lot of like crazy benefits. And the craziest thing is I wasn't being hired to do that position. I was being hired to run the whole company. And mind me, I'm 21 years old at this time. I'm still trying to figure out like how I'm going to deal with obviously my substance abuse stuff, and I never ended up like being in rehab or having any major issues. Like I didn't use hard drugs or anything, but I was just always like had a lot of brain fog and would like always escape doing that. So I did that for like 2.5 months. Everything went terrible. Ended up like leaving Texas.
What do you mean it went terrible? What happened?
Basically, there was a lot of things that were supposed to be truths and ended up being complete lies. And the in-house installer ended up being not exclusive and
not an in-house installer.
Solar's interesting because you're selling construction projects. So it's like, hey, you need project managers and follow-up routines and the whole nine. Guess what they had? None of that. So none of it was ready to be done. But I didn't have the knowledge to do that because I earned my qualification for that job being based off of social media and the following and what can you attract.
Yeah.
Not like, hey, dude, if we get down to numbers here, do you qualify? It would have been a big old NO.
Yeah.
So I stepped into a job that I was unqualified to do, which obviously in solar, biggest things is always going to be systems. Got to have systems. Got to have culture. After that, you kind of make a lot of money with a terrible pay scale.
Yeah.
You can have a terrible pay scale with great systems and great culture and you'll be fine. But did that. The thing that really burned is I brought out like my hometown friends who I had grown up with and their parents knew me. So those people's parents like now look at me like that guy sucks. Kind of mindset. All of my friends who I still have now are totally cool and they tell their parents like, hey dude, it just like is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's cool that they have my back. And this was the turning moment in my life. It's July. This is about a year ago. This is about 11 months ago. And this is the next peel of the emotional onion. I'm in New Smyrna Beach. I came back. We all moved home. I'm on the phone with the guy that's going to like kind of get the money paid out. I'm owed multiple 5 figures. And I'm sitting there and it's my mom's birthday, but it's just eating me up so heavy. So I like take the phone call and I'm outside of this restaurant and I'm just losing it. Like I lost it. And that's the last time I've emotionally relapsed. But I remember going through that, went home, started drinking a bunch, ended up like hugging my mom and crying and be like, dude, this is so hard. Like I continually get screwed. Like I had hit rock bottom yet again. And I don't remember what it was like the day after waking up. I just can't remember that. But I knew at that point, that was the last time I had taken like a victim mindset of like, man, this stuff keeps happening. The world is so hard. This is going to be difficult. People are out to get me. I was just like, dude, it is what it is. It was so funny that going through that provided the peace that was necessary to be in the position I am in now and be able to wake up with a smile every morning. That was the last time I've emotionally relapsed. I haven't like screamed at anybody over the phone. I'm extremely calm and like happy and just excited to be here. And funny enough, I've got videos back in August of where it was back again. Hey, I've got $2,000 to my name and I'm back in my parents' like house and I have nothing besides like a girlfriend who really, really loves me and cares for me and somebody, not somebody, God that's looking down. It's like, hey, I've got you. Like, I'm going to kind of guide your steps here. Just let me do my thing. And those 3 to 4 events are the most crucial portions and like little Caleb being big Caleb.
Yeah, man. It sounds like those moments are like I call them defining moments where you have like this opportunity to make a new decision. And, you know, that's how you break a pattern you'll have these patterns of being a victim mentality, of being emotionally reactive, of being expressive. And then life will kind of put you in situations to see like, hey, did you learn your lesson? Did you grow here? Right? Are we going to do it perfect every time? No. But it's a lot of times I always say true growth isn't doing everything perfect. It's just doing a little bit better next time. And so, for example, if something would emotionally trigger you and it felt like a 10 intensity and it was going to knock you off course for 6 days and you work on yourself and you do growth and you development, and then that same situation happens again and it only feels like a 4 intensity and it knocks you off balance for a couple hours, that's growth.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's true growth in that situation. So it sounds like, you're able to kind of navigate those situations a little bit better. So what are you looking forward to in your business today and like in the direction you guys are going?
Peace. I think a lot of the people I work with is just peace. It's a very it's a very nurturing circle. A lot of people would think at this point that I would have recruited the world and I would have built a ginormous organization that was making 7 figures a year. I don't. I've let go so heavily of like people's expectations of like how people think my life should be going. And like,
it's a tough one, you know. So one of my favorite quotes on that, not to cut you off, but like one of my favorite quotes is, to become who you truly are, you have to let go of who you thought you were supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really hard to do because growing up, we get validation and love from family members, parents, friends, based upon our expectation of what we think they think we should be.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of rush around our lives, and it's like, well, I want to make sure I show up in the right way in my relationships and in my career and in my schooling, right? Because that's what my mom wants and my dad wants this and my friends want this. And we're actually not even truly living for ourselves.
Yeah.
And for us to be who we truly are, we have to let go of the idea of who we thought we were supposed to be and make space for that newer version to come in. And it sounds like that's something you've been constantly doing and reinventing yourself.
Yeah, I absolutely love the process of going from thinking that your job and your work is everything to having strict boundaries of when you're going to work and when you're going to live. And I don't even know if me a year ago would have been like, hey, I'm taking a weekend off. But I was like, dude, this is life. Like, there's always going to be more ways to make money.
Yeah.
There's always going to be another opportunity to be able to increase your profitability. There's always going to be something, but unfortunately, we don't own any of this. We're just borrowing it from the person from the last generation, moving forward. And it's not that everything's pointless, but I believe I've got 2 responsibilities. One is to obviously love myself, and then 2 is to love others well. The third is obviously to love God. But it's important that your actions actually like follow your rules and the things that you put within yourself, and not that this is the portion I've got to, Doug, just keep it straight to the point here. Everybody on social media wants to see a certain thing from me, and that person no longer exists anymore. So it's like, this is the person that's now developed. This is what it is that I offer. This is how I operate on a day-to-day like basis. So like, this is what I bring to the table now, which is a video I made like 2 to 3 days ago. It's like, dude, I'm not like just banging on doors anymore, looking to lower people's bills. Unfortunately, that portion, super phenomenal. Like, what I actually care about is deeply affecting other people's emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual lives. Because that's what's taken me from like completely unhappy to extremely happy. And I pondered upon this, and I was like, well, I definitely am not making 7 figures right now. Definitely don't have like a super nice car. I don't have a car at all. Like, I live, my apartment has a grocery store on the bottom. I live very comfortably. It's like, it's phenomenal. I don't require it. I just take Ubers. Like, I don't have like everything social media would portray as success, but I've got the key to solve problems that other people will spend their whole lives using money and outwardly things to try and fix. So it's like, at that portion, I played with it. I was like, okay, I don't have all these qualifications. I don't offer like coaching or mentorship or any of that. But I was like, it's extremely selfish and egotistical to keep all this knowledge and understanding you have just because you don't think you're qualified. Like, what about the person who was in your shoes at 18 and was wishing they could make 6 figures without a boss?
Yeah.
Like, what about that guy? Does nobody care about that person anymore? Like, why are you trying to be the best of the best? Why don't you just try being you?
Yeah.
And that's what you said. Nobody's going to be a better version of yourself than you are.
No one can beat you at being you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, man, this is really good. I'll kind of close this thing on this final question, man. It sounds like obviously you built a pretty good brand on your social media. Let me ask you this. If you could post one final video on your social media, then you're going to be locked out forever, right? And it kind of be your legacy on your social forever. What would your message be on your final farewell video on your social?
A dream is only a dream until you execute it. I'm living the dream right now. It would strictly be based off of every limitation you've ever thought that you had on yourself, or every excuse why you didn't think you could be where you want to be, or even 100x what you thought you could be. Just get rid of it. Life fully opens up once you realize there's no rules. Nobody can stop you from winning if you just decide to like really execute it. That's when life becomes fun. And like, I'll if this was the last like message that I ever put out to anybody, it would just be yourself and continually work on being a little bit better every single day and have wild dreams and aspirations to become that person that you thought you always could be. And you're only a few steps away from paradise. So you're just a few steps away.
It's closer than you think.
I've never had this transparency until like we've sat down and talked about it. I've never been able to unload the last 2 years.
Yeah.
This has been 2 years in the making, and I haven't taken any podcasts. I haven't taken any shows. I haven't done anything because I knew like this time was coming.
Well, I'm honored you did it with me, brother. Full circle moment.
You would be surprised how much like I've just read through those pages. This happened. Oh, well, what does the sheet say? Is this intuitive?
Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow, I have access to this guy. Like I'm honored to be here. This is all like undeserving. I'm just like super stoked to be here and share my story and hopefully, I don't know, be able to give people something to chew on for a little bit.
Yeah. So where can people find you to get some more of this fire content on your social page?
Just the Bill Lowering guy. Instagram if you want a little bit more like informational long form. And then TikTok, I just am going to start posting just like all the behind scenes stuff. Yeah. I do a lot of crazy stuff.
Giving the people what they want. Giving the people what they want, Caleb.
Yeah, that's where you're going to find everything. Just the Bill Lowering guy. And reach out to me. I'm super active on all my socials. So like I text people, I call people, I FaceTime people. I'm all about it. I'm just happy to be alive.
Hey, brother, I appreciate you coming on, man, and making the trip down here. It means a lot, man. And it's so cool to see the full circle moment and great to connect you after those 2 long years of catching up out in Florida, brother.
Dude, I'm so stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, brother.